Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the 8-Bit Adventures Podcast. This is episode 311, and I am your host, Sean Hayes, here to bring you the latest and greatest gaming news of the past week. Had a little bit of a scare getting this started. My Stream Deck was not responding to button inputs. But I was able to get that straightened out before it was after I started streaming, after I pushed the go live button and before I did the intro sequence. So thankfully that's why I added that 5 minutes of like the stream is starting. Audio listeners, you have no idea that this happens. So this is only for people who are watching live. So that all stuff gets edited out. But yeah, I was a little worried that I would go to push the button to do the intro and nothing would happen. But everything's fine. That's great. Have a nice cloudy, cool Saturday here at the home studio. And we've got some fun news this week. I'm so glad. Like there was a couple things of like layoffs. Although SAG-AFTRA got a big win. They got another studio to sign their agreement over AI usage. But there's enough like fun news this week that I was like, no, we got to do fun stuff. So World Within continues to be really great. I think Blizzard did a whole bunch of great stuff with this expansion. That's what I've been doing in my spare time. I don't have a lot of it these days anymore. And work got busy as we're in the middle of our big contest season, and so it's basically like every day there's like 200 entrants that need to be moderated, kind of a thing. And new D&D Player's Handbook, pretty good, I gotta say. Regardless of the rules inside, the page layout, the book layout, so much better than the 2014 one. And the art's so much better. Yeah, it was just in like the best art in the 2014 PHB was like from 4th edition. So, all right. But enough about that. We've got 6 news topics for today, and for the week. So why don't we get right into them? All right, so first up, IGN reports that patch 7 for Baldur's Gate 3 has been released. This is the latest major update. It will include this one. This is the one. Includes official mod support. So mod support baked right into the game. And I know the mods are very, very popular with this game, for good or ill. We'll also include new legendary actions for several NPCs, make your honor mode runs a little more difficult. And for those of you on Santa's naughty list, there's a whole bunch of new endings to support your evil playthroughs. A lot of folks, when this news first broke, when it was first released, we're saying, oh, this looks like it will likely be the last major content patch. And then yesterday, Larian came out and said, nah, we just the chefs need more time to cook. So this will not be the last or the final patch. It just they may take a break to go work on other stuff, or to think of new ideas, or to just take a break. I mean, they earned it. So yeah. I don't know what I'm gonna go back and do another playthrough. I put 250 hours into my first playthrough, and it's like I don't know if I've got it in me to go back and do it again. And that was from start to finish. That wasn't, I think I have a couple other playthrough. Like I have a multiplayer playthrough that I do with some friends of mine. That like we kind of did like 1 or 2 sessions. But I'm not one to basically like start, do a playthrough, get tired by Act 1, and then finish it. I did do that with Divinity. That happened a lot with Divinity, of like getting through Act 1 of Divinity Original Sin, and then other stuff coming up, and then falling off the game, and then going back and like just restarting and doing Act 1 over and over. Which, like, for that game, Act 1 is like, that could just be a game. Like, Act 1, I think, in Divinity, the first Divinity Original Sin, was like 35 hours. So yeah, that's a full-fledged game. So, but yeah. So, we'll have to see what more stuff Larian could come up with in the future. And who knows? Maybe there's folks at Wizards of the Coast who, like, on the internal team and not the Hasbro team, who are, trying to push for repairing that relationship. After basically the licensing team all got canned. So, and then for our next set of news, related, more Baldur's Gate. This is for D&D Beyond specifically. Wizards of the Coast sent out an email yesterday or a couple days ago. So every month, if you are a D&D Beyond subscriber, you get subscriber benefits. It's usually in the form of like, custom virtual dice or character backgrounds or whatever, like character sheet backgrounds or whatever. So this one, character sheet backgrounds. So this is, you can change the background graphic of your character sheet. You can change the frames and stuff as a way to customize it. So this is to change the background, featuring art from some of the Magic cards in the 50th anniversary Secret Lair drop, which feature Karlach and Astarion. So, notably, one of the pieces of Astarion art is inspired by, heavily inspired by Jeff Goldblum, in Jurassic Park. So, if you're a D&D Beyond subscriber, you get those. And that's included in your subscription. It's not like it's not a microtransaction type deal. So, yeah. Unfortunately, so it's only 2 pieces of art for each one. And unfortunate for Karlach, it's not the Thrill of Possibility art. It's so one of them is Stranglehold. So the card Stranglehold. I don't know what the other card is. And then Astarion has that art, and then I don't remember which one, if it's Sanguine Bond or the other one. But he's basically going for a little nibble on Shadowheart and the other art. So those are available now. They've also added character background art from the new player's handbook. It features a couple of like the pieces of art from the backgrounds section. So, yeah, those are available now. That was kind of a last minute addition, because I shared that with my friends group, and I was like, guys, you got to check this out. It's just the Asterion art's just so over the top. And I know there's probably people out there who are looking for that. So next up, now this one is from the official PlayStation blog. So for anyone out there who thinks that this is just like, oh, this is just a Nintendo and Dungeons and Dragons podcast, it's like, no, I do pull in from other news sources. It's just they often don't have like worthwhile stuff to talk about. But this one, the official PlayStation blog reports that the Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake, which Square right up there with their naming conventions again, will have a new job added to it, Monster Wrangler. Now, I love Pokemon games. I love, Monster Battler games and stuff. So this, I'm super excited to hear. And like Dragon Quest and Dragon Warrior have a story like there are like Monster Battler games in that series. So I'm glad to see like a kind of return to that. What this job will incorporate is, so it'll have like a bunch of stock skills, that basically kind of function like other magic skills. It's just that they're monster themed. The big thing is there will be friendly monsters hidden across the world that if you have a Monster Wrangler, you can go talk to them and get them to join like your arena team. And then they added like this Monster Battler arena where you set up a team of monsters and they like auto battle against other teams of monsters. And you get some kind of rewards and loot and stuff for it. But yeah, Monster Wrangler. I always love when they do a remake and they add new content to it. So I think that is notable. One thing to note, although this news came from the PlayStation blog, this game is releasing on all platforms. So this is not just a PlayStation exclusive. But it's also the only place I found that this was this was mentioned. So, yeah. Yeah, and I think that releases pretty soon. Let's Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake. Come on. Release date. November. So November 14th. So might be a good pickup on Black Friday. Next up, this is a minor tidbit of news, but it's Legend of Zelda. So IGN reports that Nintendo did confirm, they put their foot down and they confirmed at Nintendo Live 2024 in Sydney that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are not part of the main Zelda timeline. They instead, the two games, so, Tears of the Kingdom, it's confirmed it does take place immediately after Breath of the Wild, but those two games take place in their own separate timeline. So now there's a main Zelda timeline, which has 3 branches, and then there's an offshoot timeline, which is just Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. This isn't any sort of ground-shattering news or anything, but it's Zelda timeline stuff is like a very contentious topic in the Zelda community and the Nintendo community at large. So it's like, I got to include this. And this has been something, it's not new information. Nintendo has said this a couple times before, but like people insist on trying to put Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom somewhere in like the main timeline. So Nintendo actually putting their foot down and being like, it's different. We're going to show you an infographic. Boom. And they do like the full timeline with like all the games. And then there's like the 2 little Switch ones out down in the corner separated out. Yeah, and Nintendo themselves, like, it's important to note, unless the game is a direct sequel, like Tears of the Kingdom or Majora's Mask, Nintendo doesn't care about the timeline. They don't. They've said before, we don't think about the timeline when designing a game. We just make the game. You know, and we might put Easter eggs and stuff in there, but we don't intend to slot it anywhere in the timeline. This is entirely and like, for the fact that Nintendo to acknowledge what it was essentially a community, like, fan-made creation and then publish it, is pretty notable in and of itself. That's not something you see them do. But it's now kind of turned into this big giant monster of a thing. So, yeah, they are separate. So, and you know what? I think that's fine. I think it's fine. You know, I'm okay with stuff just being Easter eggs and references, as opposed to trying to figure out, like, to perform mental gymnastics to figure out, like, oh, but, you know, if this takes place in the future, and the Great Sea was here, but but there's also both, you know, like, if Gorons were nearly extinct in the Wind Waker, how are they now thriving in Breath of the Wild, which is supposedly post Wind Waker? Or how are there both Zora and Rito? Yeah. And, you know, the short answer is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because they're all mostly self-contained stories that just fit as a broad series of collective tales about this land of Hyrule. So, yeah. You know, and some of them are intended to be like, oh, this is like an origin story. You know, like Skyward Sword is intended to be, you know, an origin story type thing. But, yeah. Also goes to show, don't do time travel. It just makes messes. If there's one thing that all media about time travel has taught us, is that time travel is messy, and you just make, even if you do everything right, you still make messes. So don't do it. Don't. For audio listeners, I'm pointing at the camera. So, and speaking of, for things that were inspired by the fan community, this is perhaps my favorite news of this week. Polygon reports that the enormously open world space exploration game No Man's Sky, the infamous No Man's Sky, which is now pretty good from what I understand, has received an update titled Aquarius that adds fishing. I saw this in my news feed for articles for the podcast, and I went, who has delivered this perfect piece of news for me? The update was inspired. So, like, the last update came out, which was Worlds, I think it was called, where it was basically sort of like a big update to the engine and how, like, worlds are generated and how they look and everything. And then a fan, and the article didn't list who the artist was. So I apologize for that. I also don't think they posted the original art, but there was a piece of fan art of explorers, like, sitting on the wing of their craft and, like, just fishing off the side of their spacecraft. Because part of the world's update was, like, also updating, like, the water engine and how water looks. So now this is sort of capitalize on that and do, like, activities that revolve around the water and stuff. So they put in a whole. Now, granted, from what I saw in the trailer, it's not a complicated fishing system. We're not talking Stardew Valley or, you know, Breath of Fire 3. or even Link's Awakening. Like, we're not talking anything like that. It's basically you catch a fish, you click, you catch it. Like you hook a fish, action button prompt. If you get it in time, you get the fish. So, very Animal Crossing. I mean, if it's sort of what I consider to be the simplest form of a fishing system, where it's essentially a quick time event. However, they also build around, there's bait, there's missions. They added, cooking the fish. So, yeah, this is this right up my alley. To be clear, for those who are new listeners who haven't been listening for a long time, I love fishing mini games in broader games. I don't like fishing games. Like I don't like fishing sims, but I like games which include fishing as a side activity. And for me, it's if it's just a quick time event, okay. Not super thrilled, not super excited or thrilled about it, but you put it in there, it checks the tick box, or it ticks the check box for me. But the more effort you put into it being like its own thing, and like the more arcade style you make it, where it's not just simulationist, the more fun I have with it. And the more you can gamify it, because like Zelda does, like a lot of Zelda games do fishing, and sort of the mainline ones. Actually, come to think of it, I think it was just Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess. Did not quite simulationist, but it's sort of a we'll call it a stylized simulation of fishing. I do enjoy that, but I much prefer when you do like an actual little mini game out of it, like Stardew Valley does. I think Stardew Valley is the pinnacle of fishing mini games. Still have to play Breath of Fire 3. I'd imagine that one is also pretty high up there. So, yeah, for them to add this in the game, now it's like, instead of being like, oh yeah, that's a cool thing, I'll probably never play it because it's got, now it's like, put it on the list, put it on the wish list. Get this game on my PC. So yeah. And for game devs out there who happen to come across this video or audio podcast, and you're listening, you want me to play your game? You put fishing in it. Figure it out. Figure out how to put fishing in that game. And don't just make it like Bass Pro Hunter, or or just a button click. I will also say, I also appreciate when it's like a different concept from the base, from like the rest of your game. So, like fishing's a big part of Pokemon. I don't think it's very engaging because it's just another way to trigger Pokemon battles. Possibly a hot take, but yeah, I'd rather have it be a different system and do other stuff than just, it triggers a special battle. With the exception of if triggering a special battle is a very rare event for your fishing game. So, but yeah, this is, it includes a bunch of, so for No Man's Sky, to get back on topic, bunch of equipment so that you can do all sorts of fishing expedition type stuff. Different bait, new things to cook. I think eating fish dishes might give you some sort of benefit. Like a fishing catalog and, register. And then just as a way to just chill out and just hang out in, the world. And it's a very clever way of getting people to stop for a moment and then just like be able to look at the scenery that they put so much work in revamping. I think it's very clever when companies do that. Less clever than, say, Blizzard forcing everybody to go to, ground mounts back at the start of every expansion to force you to look at the scenery. But giving you activities that you want to engage with that force you to slow down and look, I think is very clever. So, yeah, and that update is out now. So go check it out. Especially if you already have No Man's Sky. Go check it out. Go back in. Our final bit of news, speaking of the old World of Warcraft, Kotaku reports that the legendary, this player's absolute legend. So I don't know if there's many players that reach a level of status where even casual like World of Warcraft players have heard of them. But player Neutral Agent, who I'm going to give a little bit of backstory. A couple of expansions ago, I don't remember what year it was. It's been 20 years of Warcraft, so it's been so long. When Mists of Pandaria launched, a big thing was Pandaren characters start out neutral with respect to the Horde and the Alliance. And this was back, when, doing Horde versus Alliance was still full swing. They were neutral. And you go through your intro starting quests, and at the end of that starting quest, the two sort of main Pandaren NPCs that you are questing with end up with a difference of ideology. And they go and join, like one joins the Horde and one joins the Alliance. And it's kind of based on like who ends up helping you and who they interact with. And then you make a choice of whether your character joins the Horde or the Alliance. And it was very for, a single peoples or people in Warcraft to be able to join either faction was like unheard of at that point. So it was a big deal. What most people didn't realize was that there is technically a third option, which is that you don't pick and you remain neutral. And that's what Neutral Agent did. And unfortunately, it means that in order to progress past like level 11 out of, I want to say it was maybe like 90? Or it might have even been like over 100 at the time was the level cap. That in order to stay neutral, you couldn't leave the starting zone. And which meant that your options for leveling became very limited. So Neutral Agent reached maximum level while staying in the starting zone. And he did it by mining ore and picking herbs and gathering herbs. And sadly, Blizzard won't let you get experience for fishing, which is an absolute travesty since every other since you get experience for crafting now, and you get experience for again gathering ore or herbs. You don't get it for gathering leather and stuff because Blizzard thinks double dipping on experience for killing creatures is too much. But yeah, so they hit the level cap just by going around picking flowers in the starting zone. So that's the background of Neutral Agent. The news is they hit max level again. So it's been the case for every past couple of expansions where at the start of the expansion, they knock you back down 10 levels. Like there was a level squish to bring max level back down to, I think they brought it back down to 60 at the time. And then they've steadily been increasing the level cap again. And then like they'll knock you back down 10 levels or so. Occasionally at the start of an expansion. And then you regain those levels with like new abilities. So yeah, they've hit level 80, which is the sort of level cap in War Within. Again, they haven't left the starting zone. And he's still just mining ore and picking flowers. So this is mostly a salute to Neutral Agent. Maximum Legend. So yeah. And that is going to be our episode for this week. Thank you all for joining me. Whether you watch whether you watch the video version, whether you listen to the audio version, thank you for spending some time. If you would like to see more content from 8-Bit Adventures, you can check out the website at 8-bitadventures.com. If you'd like to help support that content, which includes comics, podcasts, it's mostly comics and podcasts at this point. The best way to do that is to become a patron over at patreon.com/8bitadventures. Don't sign up through iOS. Do it through the website. Patrons get benefits for as little as $1 a month. So, big shout out and thank you to all of the current patrons. Thank you for your continued support. Our opening theme is One Up by Professor Shy Guy. You can find his work over at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. And he goes to a lot of like the various gaming like nerd conventions. So if you're at one of those and you listen to this podcast, like go talk to him, go thank him. Go say like, hey, 8-Bit Adventures, the 8-Bit Adventures podcast has been, has got like over 300 episodes now. Your song's been the theme. And to be clear, I cleared it with him before episode 1 of usage for that song. Yeah, and he was super cool with it. He's great. So yeah, at least go thank him. So that's going to wrap things up. So hope you all have a great week and a great weekend. We'll see you next time. And as always, have fun, happy gaming, and enjoy your pie cake.